Welcome to another episode of Talking Tech. You're watching India Today. I am Manas Tiwari, and today we're going to discuss a smartphone brand which started as more like a startup but had the blessings of India's biggest smartphone brand before it decided to go independent and find its own path. I'm talking about Poco, and as soon as you mention Poco, there are a lot of questions pop up in your mind. Some of them start with an F. We'll not go into that, but I have with me Anuj Sharma, country director, Poco India, and he'll try to answer all our questions. So, how are you doing, Anuj? How is it going for you?
Hey Manas and hey everyone. Uh, Very interesting times, but from a Poco perspective, I think we've had a phenomenal run. So very excited about that one. Also very excited about things to come,
Yeah.
and look forward to what unravels there.
And I have a lot of questions for you. So, we'll talk about all of them one by one. But let's start with this big announcement that you have made that you have emerged as the fastest growing brand of the first quarter of this year. So, what are the numbers that we are looking at here?
Last year we started off with a big bang. Uh, when we went independent last year, Q1.
Yeah.
So we finally completed 1 year on our own. Uh, And to go along with that 1 year milestone, we've also become the fastest growing brand in the country. I'm sure we were already the fastest growing, but we didn't really have a benchmark, right? So year on year, we can finally say that now. Uh, so our growth was actually 300%. So essentially, what we were a year back, we are 4 times that now. Uh, and that also makes us the fastest growing brand in the country. If I take the top 10 brands into play, uh, which also means we are amongst the top 10. But I mean, of course, there would be some fringe players who might, I mean, if you go from 1 to 10 and all
Yeah.
that, so those also could be a different part. But amongst the people who are doing substantial business in the country, uh, we were the fastest and by a massive distance. So you're more than like twice as fast as even a smaller player in the top 10. Uh, so that's fairly encouraging and very happy with the business results overall.
Yeah. And I mean, that's given that you have still not launched the F series smartphone. So I can see how the numbers will go when that happens. Definitely like difficult times and difficult times demand for difficult decisions. And I think one of those decisions which you took this year was you're probably one of the first brands to actually stop your launches as the second wave of COVID-19, went up. Now, I understand from the business point of view, it's very important to keep it running because you employ people and you have to serve them. You have certain responsibility towards them as well. So how difficult was that decision to sort of, when others were launching phones, to decide not to?
Uh, Not a very difficult decision. Manas, to be fair, uh, it's a small team that we have, and at any given time, we would always put the health and safety of that team over anything else. It's not that we have nothing else and we're starting that business. We have a bunch of great products already in the market uh, for people to buy. So business is not going to come to a standstill. It's just that we are not risking getting people in together, trying to do a shoot, trying to create a separate messaging, and putting people at risk unnecessarily. The second part, we just thought, you know, with the entire mood that was on. I mean, none of us have been insulated to the constant, uh, I don't know, barrage of news, whether you take it either ways. Uh, and in that point, I don't think we could have gone and said that, hey, here's something that we're celebrating with. It just didn't really make too much sense there. But
Now,
that was the secondary part of it.
so but where are we now in terms of your plans and strategies? When can we expect Poco to start launching phones or devices again?
Don't know. Still monitoring the numbers. Still looking at the situation. Uh, Trying to get inputs from the on-ground side. Uh, we definitely have things in the pipeline, but in no hurry to kind of put that out in the market. I think we'd want to do a good job. We'd want to obviously also look at is it safe enough to kind of get the team back. If it's not, but in certain markets things have started recovering or looking much better, then we'll find a different way of putting the products out there.
I know that you had a phone planned for the end of May. Now that of course was postponed, but the Poco M3 Pro has just been launched globally. So was it the same phone? If not, when is the Poco M3 Pro 5G coming to India? Can you tell us something about that?
uh, Definitely interested in that product. uh,
Of course you will
it's
be. It's your own product.
and considering that Poco does not have too many products,
Yeah.
definitely we're not really, we're making select products, so we're definitely on the cards. uh, how, when, still needs to be kind of decided, but quite excited to see the overall reaction that people had on that product. I mean, obviously, we knew that it was quite a interesting product, but from a design perspective and all of that, I think it's starting to kind of take its own identity in a way, which is nice.
So, Acha, apart from smartphones, what are the other, I mean, including smartphones, in fact, including smartphones, what are the other key launches or announcements we can expect from you? And I ask this because I remember very clearly, and we have had this conversation as well before.
Yeah.
Last year, you had announced Poco Buds, and we haven't heard about them since. And there was a lot of buzz around that product as well. So, are they still in works? What are the other products that you guys are planning to enter, other categories that you're planning to enter?
So Buds is the first one. So I don't really want to go out and promise new categories right now because we've not been able to deliver the second one that we were supposed to. Uh, Buds are still in the progress. We are still kind of looking at stuff. Uh, it's taken a bit of a hit in terms of timelines again because it requires certain amount of testing. Audio is a complex topic, as we all found out after we've announced this. But both from a lab test perspective as well as on-ground test perspective, it needs significant play. So the couple of early versions that we had of the Poco Buds actually got rejected at different levels of testing. Whether it was the sound signature that wasn't really fitting in well, or whether it was the fit itself, because you're looking at TWS, so it's a little tricky. So right now we've not been able to kind of move forward with that testing of the version that we have right now. Uh, I don't know if it'll pass. We'll probably have to find out, but they're definitely in the works there.
So you're not attaching a timeline, but we should expect it sometime this year, is what I can see.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, last year I was having this conversation with Manmohan, and he even asked me for some suggestions, and I told him that get a affordable smartwatch to India, because at that time even Xiaomi hadn't launched any of these smartwatches. अब Poco की नहीं है, देखो Xiaomi की आ गई पहले.
I mean, from a Xiaomi group perspective, they already have a big ecosystem,
Yeah.
and they can kind of draw in from a lot of places. But then the question is, if there was supposed to be a Poco watch, how would it be, and how will it be different? And are you bringing anything else to the market compared to,
I'll,
I
I'll give you
guess, the
I'll give you an insane idea. You can play games on your watch. Battlegrounds of
no,
India is coming.
I don't think that'll work too well.
Yeah.
Unless you like have a massive those 1980s concept watches, right, which used to be the entire forum.
Yeah.
Uh,
Basically, a small console attached to your wrist is what you're
yeah.
imagining here. Now, Anuj, every time we talk about Poco, whatever conversation is, there one question is there which cannot be avoided at all. And again, this is something that we have discussed a couple of times before. So I want to bring it up again with you. And you have tried to answer it on social media platform. Is the successor of Poco F1? You've tried to answer that on social media, tried to explain people, but I want to quickly break it down for our viewers as well, that why has there been this delay in bringing a Poco F1 successor, and what are the elements involved from the business point of view, because there is a global chip shortage. There's some components have become expensive in the last couple of years. So if the new phone comes, what could be the price range that we can look at?
So a Poco F1 successor, I think, is already there.
Okay,
If I
nice.
look at if I look at the Poco F1, what did the F1 do?
Yeah.
I think the F1 created like a new benchmark in terms of what you could get in terms of performance, right?
Yeah.
And at 21,000 rupees, Uh, you got a Snapdragon 845, and interestingly, at 21,000 rupees, till March of this year, it remained unbeaten. Not a single phone, which is interesting, right? So 2018 August till March of this year, not a single phone at 21 or under that was able to beat the Poco F1 in terms of performance. Apart from that, what the other stuff that the Poco F1 did was cut out nothing you don't. So it obviously did not really have like a glass body, did not have wireless charging. Uh, at that point, it actually only had a 12 MP plus, I think a 12 plus 5 camera setup and all things like that. The, the concept of giving an incredible performance at a crazy price is, I guess, what the legacy of the Poco F1 was. And with the X3 Pro, it does exactly that. So it's not called a F, but it does everything that the Poco F1 uh, did. And essentially, it becomes the first phone at 21K or under to beat the Poco F1 since the Poco F1. Uh, so at 19,000 rupees, compared to the F1, you're obviously getting more battery, you're getting a high refresh rate screen, you're getting more storage. That was a 664 starting. This is a 6128 starting. You are getting faster charging. You're getting better cameras. So all of that works is obviously there. But I think what you're also getting, and I guess we'll probably only, we'll not probably realize it now, but maybe by the end of next year, that like the F1, the X3 is also likely to remain unbeaten when it comes to phones under 20K. Because you need to also consider, like what you just mentioned, the costs are actually going up, right? But that was one concept in terms of how do you take the Poco F1 and give it an actual successor. And I think that's what the X3 Pro is, which comes back to a question saying, what is the role of the F in the new scheme of things? Uh, and that's probably a two-part thing when we are looking at the F. Uh, One is because the main role of the F1 has already been taken up. It needs to do a lot more. And second part is, whether you like it or not, uh, consumers are right now looking at more of an all-rounded part of it. So even if I, for example, have one aspect, suppose I take a Poco F1 today and drop in, say, a high performance top of the line chip there, people are not going to be happy about it, right? Because they are now starting to expect a lot more. And as time passes, uh, there's this whole checklist. It should have this, it should have that, it should have all of that stuff. Uh, that combined with the costs obviously make it a little difficult. Uh, so most probably, again, you would look at something which ticks all the boxes to be at the price range what the Poco F in global markets launched. So about 350 euros to about 400 odd euros is what we try and get that. Uh, because of course, you can't really do a one trick high performance kind of a phone once you get into that price range. And that's what we're trying to do. It is a process. It is also trying to figure out the right product.
But
But yeah,
it's in plans for sure. So these are the
it
two
is.
things that you have confirmed, that the Poco F series successor or the Poco F series phone is also coming at some point, and the Poco Buds are also still in works.
Correct.
So I mean, in fact,
So
viewers can
actually
also,
three things.
yeah,
Three things, right? So one is the Buds is still in the works. Hopefully we get it right. The Poco F1 successor is already there,
yeah,
and it's going to be unbeaten in terms of performance for a long time to come.
yeah,
And third one is that itself changes the definition of what a Poco F series should be.
yeah,
And to tick all the marks, obviously it basically adds to the cost.
yeah.
But hopefully we are able to justify the cost increment and
Yeah.
the things that you get there.
Yeah, definitely. So in fact, I would ask my viewers if what would be the ideal price according to you if a Poco F series phone has to come. So you can let us know in the comments section how much should it cost or what you would be willing to pay if Poco brings F series smartphone. Now, Anuj, another question that I have for you is in terms of the business strategy for the rest of 2021. Now, we know that some time has, of course, been lost because of this COVID situation. So, what are your plans for the rest of the 2021? How do you plan to recover from this COVID-19 impact?
Sure. So I'm hopeful, and and going beyond the business part of it, of course, we've all got our fingers crossed, saying the recovery from wave two. I'm hoping, like every other mathematical waveform, it rose really quickly. I'm hoping that it dies out really quickly, and people obviously get back to normal. It's been obviously a very hard time for everyone. Uh, but that said, from a business perspective, again, I hope to kind of continue the momentum that we've had uh, so far in the year. We've started off with a bang, but a couple of things that I don't really want to change in terms of the success formula. I think one reason why we've grown that quickly is, uh, of course, Poco as a brand has kind of stood out. What you expect from a Poco is very different from what you expect from a plethora of stuff. But I think more importantly, and I'll probably go back to my product management or product marketing roots, uh, we've kept it simple, right? So we've not really launched too many devices. We've not complicated stuff. We've not flooded the market. It was a risky move considering in 2020, almost everyone was launching like 15, 20 phones. And at any given time, the max we had was 4, right? So it's been a lean portfolio. I want to keep it lean so that you're not, you've decided that you want to buy a Poco, but then you're not confused saying, in my price range, I've got like 5 Pocos, which one to get? I don't really want to do that. Certain brands are probably doing that. Good for them. That must be their strategy. But I also kind of try and look at it from a consumer perspective. If I were to buy a phone, uh, there's a probably nightmarish scenario when you go into a shop and saying, इस price पे ये वाला phone भी है, ये वाला phone भी है, ये वाला phone भी है, but all these phones are from the same brand and they do almost the same things, and I have no idea what you're trying to achieve. So I want to keep it clean. So you will not see too many launches from us, but you will see meaningful products. You will not see a massive expansion in terms of the portfolio, but wherever it comes in, it will be sufficiently spaced out from each other so that there is a decent enough option that is coming in there.
So basically, we'll have the normal Pocos and the Poco Pro models, but not the Pro Max and the Ultras and all those crazy nomenclatures.
Probably not.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anuj. You have been really kind with your time and you have very sportingly answered all your questions. I hope our viewers will get to know a lot of things from this interview, and a lot of their questions are also answered here. So thank you so much for your time again, Anuj.